Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's series, this week's conversation. We in the series of Women of Significance in STEM. And today we have with us Patti Pokorchak, all the way from Canada, who is a serial entrepreneur over the last 20 years. So she has taken her science background and taken it in incredible directions throughout her life, and we're going to explore some of that today and explore some of Patti's success secrets in how she has created that wonderful way of loving what you do, making money what you do, and adding value through utilizing your science and technical background. So welcome today, Patti.
Well, thank you, Leah. It's great to be talking around 14 time zones. Yeah,
exactly. And thank you for your time today. And as I was sharing before, the purpose of these conversations is to take a look into the choices and the way you've made decisions around your career, so that we can explore your thinking frames and some of the lessons learned, so that for our emerging leaders coming through the science and technology institutions and starting out their careers, to help them to see and open their eyes to all the possibilities that are in front of them. That, you know, that just because you might start in a technical environment does not necessarily mean that you'll need to stay there. So, and I think you exemplify this really, really well. So I'd love you to share with us, firstly, Patti, what you do, who you do it for, and I guess the helicopter view of how you came to be doing what you do, which I know is a big ask in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But let's see how we go.
I'll try to condense it. I've always had an affinity for business. And so I at 17, I was following, I'd skipped a grade. So I was with my brother going to a polytechnical institute, which is unique in Canada, lots in England. I'm not sure about Australia. So he was studying this thing called computer science. I mean, this is 1971, which is why I say I was born with a computer in my pocket, because literally in 1971, he let me, we shared a car, we had to drive home together. So I was always waiting for him to run his programs. And he sat me down in front of a teletype terminal and I played a golf game. It was the first time in my life. And I was fascinated, going, the genius behind doing this. And so I switched my major to business computing. So playing a game literally changed my life, because I was I was a female tech pioneer back in the 70s, one of the first female professionals hired by IBM when I was still a teenager with a 3-year diploma in computer science, business computing. But because I didn't have a degree, they wouldn't let me be a programmer. That was my burning desire. But I was an operator, so I operated mainframe computers, worked shift work, and it took me 6 months to go, this sucks. I do need a degree. Ended up with 2 degrees, an MBA in marketing. IBM rehired me. Taught me.
So did you do computer science? Was that your first degree then?
My first diploma.
Yep.
So then I went back and did my 4th year, which gave me a BCom. There was no major that I went on. I thought, well, this MBA, I had a feeling my life would not be quite normal. So I thought, well, an MBA will give me, because back in the late 70s, it wasn't trendy, it was unknown, and it gave me a bit of sort of a seal of approval. I've got some smarts, okay? But so IBM rehired me, forced me to learn how to sell. I had zero. To me, it's still a crime that we graduate business students without any sales education at all. I mean, we teach them how to do finance and accounting and marketing and HR, but sales, there's no sales, there's no business, which is my current passion, to teach entrepreneurs.
Yeah, tell us, so currently, tell us what you do right now.
Yeah, so I stumbled, again, as serendipitous. Somebody hired me 6.5 years ago as their sales coach. And I went, oh my God, I am living proof that professional sales is a taught skill. because I was shy, I was introverted, I was a geek, I was extremely insecure, extremely quiet, and it's just scared of my own shadow. But had that immigrant work ethic of, well, you pay me to do a job, so I will do it no matter how scared I am, because sales is challenging. So is marketing. It's not like, you know, so when you look at an engineering, like if you build a bridge, it either, you know, works or it doesn't work. Sales is like, how I sell to you is very different from how I sell to a millennium, to another, you know, older female, younger man. It's like, everybody's got different personalities and different traits, and it's just a forever learn. You're always learning because you have to adapt to each person. And my secret sauce, when I dissected it, was to be curious and caring. And the curiosity part.
Yes.
That's, I would
isn't
say,
that a fabulous word? Curiosity. Like, look at you, you know, your opening words today were, you know, there you were, you know, with your brother and following your brother's footsteps in a sense, and the geekiness of the curiosity of this golf game in this machine. What did you call it? A
teletype. It's like a typewriter on steroids. Because you type
have you got a picture of that? That needs to go on your business card.
I actually have a picture of Bill Gates. It's actually Bill Gates's. That's how he learned about computers as well. So it was the curiosity, and that has you know, I was always curious about people, insanely curious about people. And what I didn't realize, I've always been a pioneer. I've always been ahead of my time, selling things that never been sold before at IBM, in Europe, on software, you know, all the computers, were mainframes down to electronic handheld computers, you know, now to, you know, the iPhone is a computer in itself. So it was always being fascinated by, you know, like I say, sales is a lifelong learning, because everybody.
But going back to your first experience with IBM, they pulled you kicking and screaming into sales. Like, so just tell me a little bit about that, because again, you know, that was probably very radical too, because only, you know, technical sales, IT sales is still a male dominated environment. And so this is interesting. So you came into IBM but they hired you in what capacity?
Where you start, once you have a degree at IBM, everyone at that time, it's 1978, 40 years ago, you had to go through 6-month basic systems training, as they called it. So you started as believe it or not, a systems engineer. That was your title. So you were really a sales associate to the sales professional. They were called sales, they were called marketing reps, because, you know, that S word, sales, is still a bad word. So you learned about IBM mainframe technology, you learned some business principles, and then you learned how to sell. You did role plays that were videotaped and critiqued on 20 points. Like, you know, and you're critiqued by 3 of your peers as well as the instructor, and videotaped. And it's just like, it didn't get through that. And it was very formulaic. It was like, this is the way you sell. And it was just, you know, with a name like Pokorchak, I'm not going to fit into that square peg, obviously. And so until I found my own way of expressing, which is, you know, again, curious and caring, is I was scared of, you know, reaching out to people, but I knew I had to do it. I didn't like to talk, so I asked questions. I was just curious. My story is when I was when I was
asking
14, questions. So when I was 14 and I was a shy teenager, and remember, everybody, at least in North America, they read 17 magazine. It was the teen magazine for girls. In it says how to talk to boys when you're shy, and it says ask questions, listen, smile. Hello. What else do you need to do in sales? Is really actively listen.
And how else did you, like, you were kicking and screaming, you saying you were an introvert, you know, and yet you had a deep curiosity, and you clearly had an ability to just do what needed to be done in any case.
Well, it's, you know, what I have discovered now is I know what paid my bills was selling something. And I go, okay, I think you need what I'm selling. So let me ask questions to establish the need. Make sure, okay, and then summarize. So this is your problem, and this is your problem, this is your problem, this is your number one priority, and we can help you.
Yeah.
Would you like some of that? No finesse, no smooth. It was just like, you got a problem, I got a solution. Hey, we're a match. We're a match. Do you want some? Honestly, it was my closing now is like, what do you think of my proposal? And I shut up. Do you think I can help you? And learning to shut up. And that's the key. Selling is listening. Most of life is listening, not talking, because you're not learning when you're talking. And the more you learn, the easier it is to communicate and go, so really you're concerned about this. Okay. And so you got a good point. I'm sorry we let you down, and this is what we're going to do to make it better. Is that okay with you? Again, asking questions and shutting up. Like it's not rocket science. Selling is not rocket science as long as you really care about helping the other person. I have always felt coming from in sales as being of service to others. That's the only way. It's only adding value. I've never been, I got to sell you something. I come in and go, what do you need? Can I help you? Really, and that's the curiosity. It's like, what do you need? I can't assume. You've got this title, and I've sold to somebody in an industry like yours with that title, so I can assume you might need it, but tell me, what do you need? Is that your priority? No, you want this. But it's my job to figure out how to take my product or service and pitch your problem and fix it. It could be training. It could be a system. It's and that's where I need to know my products inside out to know, okay, this is how you can do it. And that's where the deep technical knowledge comes in. I once had a situation in Germany where a customer, a potential client, had talked to my two bosses, and they said, no, can't do it. They came to me and I went, okay, this is how you do it. It's complicated, but it can be done, So it's just really, I don't want to say that thinking out of the box, but just thinking, okay, I'm a left-handed Pokorchak, it's just like, I just think differently, right? I just think differently. And it just helps when you're doing that.
And I'm hearing a really deep-rooted passion to help, but to solve complex problems. So the complexity element, I'm wondering whether that's a point of connection, where, because what I'm looking for, what are the things that that came naturally to you that you then have leveraged and built on. So you were naturally drawn into, how does this go? This is incredible. The curiosity of that drew you into technical studies, and then you found yourself in IBM. They put you into sales because they clearly saw your potential before you saw it yourself.
Yes.
Because you shine with authentic enthusiasm, Patti. And that is not salesy. That's not the plastic, charismatic, that style of salesman that often is associated, particularly with tech sales, the arrogance and the charisma and the blue suit, like, the saying, you would never be sacked if you bought IBM. I mean, I don't know whether that is still current, but, for 40 years it was. And there was the blue suit brigade, and so you would have seen a lot of changes, in the industry over time. And you've clearly moved out of corporate and then into entrepreneurship. Tell me about that decision point.
Oh boy, that was interesting. I worked.
Oh, was it? Or was it really?
Oh yeah. Because so I left. So my whole desire, being a first generation Canadian, was to go spend more time in Europe. And that was my desire, was to pay off my student debts, make some money, save it up, and go take off. I wasn't a corporate person. I kind of knew that. And so my boss at that time—
What does that mean, you weren't a corporate person?
IBM didn't treat me well the first time they hired me. I had 0 seconds of training, 0. And I operated 3 different mainframe computers. zero training. Just, yeah, they just, because I didn't have a degree, you were just kind of this, well, you know, you're just an operator. But when I came back and all of a sudden, the same person all of a sudden just had a piece of paper and said, oh, you're smarter now. It's like, and then they treated me with kid gloves. I go, you know, I've got some funny stories about that, the repercussions, because people don't forget, you know, when I had an opportunity to sell IBM equipment back to IBM, I charged them a surcharge because I could, because they were not nice to me. So I ended up in sales for a year. I made the equivalent of $150,000, which is a lot of money when you're 25. And I had enough to take a year off and buy a car and travel from Scotland to Greece and everywhere in between, including some communist countries, which was life-changing. Seeing the lack of freedom somebody my own age didn't have in Hungary was really life-changing. Anyways, I ended up in Munich. Fast forward, I'm back in Canada. I decided I'm going to go back to corporate. It was time, enough startups. I'd been laid off a couple of times and been pissed off with startups. So I was going to go back to the equivalent of the German IBM, which is Siemens.
Of course, yes.
Yes, of course. And that was the worst 7 months of my life. Absolutely horrible experience. And that made me go, okay,
What was horrible about it? What was horrible?
I had one customer, which was the Canadian Postal Service, which is very toxic environment. And I was in charge of their retail point of sale. I was the only salesperson. And after 5 months in the fiscal year, I still didn't know my multi-million-dollar target. And there was just no way, the toxic environment between Siemens and the client, it was never going to happen. But of course, half my paycheck was determined by my quota and how it was just a mess.
So I'm hearing your environment did not made success impossible, right? So this is again where what I'm seeing, Patti, is you are really quick to see what's working for you and what's not working for you, and not to make it about you, right? You got it, that the environment was not giving you what you needed. And isn't that so important that I love the way you phrase that. How can I help you? What do you need? You know, let's see if what you need and what I've got, let's see if there's a match. Yeah. But I'm hearing too that you're very quick to see what you need in order to succeed. And within 7 months, toxic environment, toxic relationship between, the corporate and the client. There's no way I can make my number, and I don't even know what their number is. Now, that's very different. That's a very different thinking frame to a lot of people that I meet who they don't have that clarity between what is my business and within my control, and what do I need from my environment to enable me to have any chance of success. And that's particularly important in sales.
Yeah, but I guess Leah, it started when I was 25 as IBM. I had a successful career. I had the stockbroker boyfriend, the sports car, the trendy duplex. I had this, blah, blah, blah.
So you had the body of evidence to say, I've made it and I made it my way.
But I wasn't happy. I wasn't content. I knew there had to be more to life. What happened was, when you, at IBM, when you make your sales target, there's the 100% club, which is the ultimate goal. And I went to it, and in polite words, it was an absolute pig fest because, again, 5,000 males and a handful of women. And me, 40 years ago, it was pretty cute. And it was tiny. I'm 5'2", 100 pounds, right? Then I was. It was just an awful experience. And I had 2 of those. In a row, and I was just like, is this it? Is this, I'm 25, like, is this is my goal? No, there's got to be more to life. So at a fairly young age, I decided I was going to live a life without regrets. And I once had a summer job where I stuck it out, and I went, I'm not doing that again. I don't care how risky it is, but I'm not going to be miserable for the sake of a paycheck. And really, when you think about it, if you're just doing it for the paycheck, which is why I even lasted 7 months at Siemens. I should have lasted 5 months because I should have just said, screw it, you don't realize how much it takes out of you when you're not happy 9 to 5. when you're watching the
Oh,
clock. You know, it's a sad, and so many people live those lives of quiet desperation. They're fearful. And I mean, nobody was more fearful than me, but I had to, it's like, you know, when they say when the bird's on a branch and it breaks, they know they can fly off and save themselves. And I know I have always been pretty lucky. And if I was going to get a job or get a new client, they will come. And just being confident that like I say, last year I was in my 9th year of my 10-year overnight success. And it's like, okay, it's my 10th year and things are going really well, really, really well. I can't, you know, I'm as busy as I want to be. And
congratulations. Because again, like 95% of people who start their own business don't get past the first year or 2 years even. Yeah. Right. And so this is where, so you knew corporate wasn't right for you. You had a drive to, you knew you could be successful. You'd created that at a young age for yourself. So you'd utilize what's around you and made it work for you. So then, so the decision then to go into your own business, is that where you went from Siemens?
That's right. Yes, of course. It coincided with my live-in partner. We started living together and working together because he was starting his own company. So my company worked for his, so he wasn't really my boss. And together we built a very successful multi-million-dollar business. He was the engineering visionary, and I was like the go-getter, marketing and sales, and go, give me something to sell and I'll just go sell it. And I became a barcode expert of all things. Not on my bucket list, but I became very good at selling barcode systems to the government. So I love selling to corporate because, you know, the money is fantastic, or selling to government. Once you get on that, I call it the domino effect. Once you sell to one and you got the title and the need and the want, and you've got the references, it just falls over. Like I call it the one call close, you know, for $20,000, $50,000 system, you know, nothing. My personality doesn't really, you have to figure out if you're more of an account manager where you want the long-term sale, or you want something fairly quick, you know, under 6 months.
So, yeah. And so I'm hearing a really, again, you're very quick at determining, like, knowing yourself deeply, where your strengths are. And then it sounds like you've been very intuitive and in taking action. So, you know, in terms of so it doesn't sound like you have really blazed your own trail, as opposed to followed mentors or had a lot of like formal training or coaching or development programs. I mean, this is the business, isn't it? I mean, it's my business. That's what Z-Axis Leadership Consultancy is creating programs and coaching for people. And and now in your own business, you help people to sell more of their stuff, or even how to sell, right?
That's right.
And because that is not taught in universities, it's not taught typically in leadership development programs.
Mm-hmm. So it is starting. Sorry to interrupt, but it is starting. There's actually a whole movement of sales educators. So there's 167 universities in the world that grant degrees in sales, business to business sales. It is coming.
Wow.
I know, mainly in the States. In Canada, it's more of I teach a mandatory entrepreneurial sales course at my alma mater, which is great. I get paid to come back to school, you know, and have fun. I mean, I get to teach students, 100 students each year, how to sell as an entrepreneur, and the basics, you know, it's like taking them through a sales process. It's, you know, it's the mindset, it's a process, it's a discipline, and there's some skills like there is, and it's knowing when to ask a question and shut up.
Yeah. So what would be your advice to your either to your younger self, or to, you know, or to emerging leaders and entrepreneurs coming through, you know, whether it be through engineering or other technical environments, and perhaps they too have not sort of have been more, I mean, I can't imagine you ever being sort of quiet and introverted, Patti, but, you know, so, you know, whether there has been a specific point of transformation that's really significant for you, or whether it has been simply you embracing life and making things happen for yourself.
Yeah, I think, I think everybody has insecurities. Everybody's got that imposter syndrome. So it's nothing special to me, but I really was extremely quiet. I didn't like to talk. And that's hence the curiosity, asking a lot of questions, really actively listening, and then saying as little as I have to. I actually use an elephant as my prop for the big ears for active listening, and a very small mouth. Say as little as you have to. And that's the key. And that's why I think women do so well in sales. If I have to stereotype, is some people like to show off everything they know, and bored people and confused people do not buy. But if you have a problem and I say, I got the solution, and I got 10 other ones, but you don't need those.
But the other thing that you have, and that we need to have as salespeople, entrepreneurs, as people blazing our own trail to get to the top of the corporation, if that is what someone's ambition is, and that is to put yourself forward and to speak. You've got to, and to create the space for yourself to be heard, to have a chance to be heard, to have a chance to be acknowledged. So, and this is what I certainly, the energy I receive from you, Patti, is that you have a compelling energy about you that tells me you're worth listening to. Right? Not because you're saying a lot, but it's the energy you bring to it. So there might be that saboteur running, but I ain't seeing any of it. Do you know what I mean? Right. As opposed to the other attitude that I see, particularly in technical people who are highly technical, is that expectation that their work speaks for them, or that they're going to be chosen because of their work or because of their boss, or it's kind of like they're waiting until someone chooses them. Yes. I don't know if that's making sense. And I'm not seeing that at any stage of your life. You might have been quiet, but I don't know that you were ever someone that wasn't noticeable. Because energetically, so was there a personality shift, or is it a maturity thing, or was it that once you discovered how much fun it was for, to be successful in sales, that actually inspired you? I'm wondering sort of what turned you on.
Okay, because the one thing I wanted to mention was, because of my technical background, is that I'm a technical salesperson, even though I don't have to know the guts. The more I knew, the easier it was for me to feel really confident doing a demonstration, because I didn't need to bring in the techie geek who would say the wrong things, or say, oh yeah, our system doesn't do that, it sucks. Techs sometimes are not the most diplomatic people. They're not that they're too honest, but you just there's a reason for salespeople. But my confidence in myself and my knowledge base is that, like I said, as I can figure out how to make the system run rings around anything. And that confidence gave me, so you need to, I'll show you this. I don't show you 100 things. I just show you what you need to know. And that very focused, it was focused. And I love what I do. That was my zest for life of like, at age 25, I'm not going to live a life with regrets. So if I'm not working in a place that fills me up, I'm out of here, I'm out of here. As an entrepreneur, you pick and choose your clients. If you're boring, I think I know another coach for you,
So was it through your experience in sales that you then morphed into a sales coach, or was that a deliberate decision to start coaching and then how did you come to be a sales coach?
Yes. Like I say, it was serendipitous. Somebody at a personal acquaintance at a brunch where we're getting to know each other, and she was a sort of a technical communicator who got herself in a sales position, and I was sort of teaching, being a sales manager to her. She goes, can you be my coach? And I knew I wanted to be a coach because I've been a marketing consultant for 28 years. as well as starting my own businesses, I've always coached and consulted. And sales to me is like coaching, so, you know, in my style, which is asking questions. I knew I wanted to be a coach, but I wasn't sure which way I was heading. And again, I'm not a born salesperson. And if I can learn to sell and get out of my shell and get over the fear, and it's just practice, 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 and it's fun. I found, you know, to be honest, a therapy helps. I was highly anxious. And once I hit 40 and I went to see a therapist, and I would show off my fingernails. Therapy works because I stopped fighting. Once I acknowledged my anxiety and nervousness and went and found that weaknesses, which you know, as an MBA, you never have weaknesses, right? You got this chip on your shoulder. But once I did, the more comfortable I got with myself, the more comfortable I got with people, and I really, really opened up. And I can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime about anything. Yeah, and find a sale, you know, at the passport office. My favorite is the passport office. You know, it's just, there's all these opportunities, and it brings so much to life when you interact with everybody. You know, my goal at the supermarket is talk to the cashier like a real person, not just like, yeah, I want 2 bags, please. You know, like,
yeah, see, and this is yeah, and I wonder if this too is partly, you know, again, it comes back to your curiosity and the more introverted aspects of where it's more comfortable for you to ask questions and have the other person talk. But you also have you are a very, very effective communicator. So I wonder if that too is part of what you've learned in terms of learning how to sell complex technology, but also to be connecting with the person. So it's not just all about the bits and bytes and the features and the gizmos and all of that. It's actually how it's going to solve the problem that person has. So I guess, you know, if you were now looking back and if you could design a course to bring you to the point in your life where you are right now, what would be the main, you know, topics or things that you know, obviously sales would be one of those, but what other topics would you include in that degree, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if it's called technical entrepreneurship, or I don't know, how would you frame it? Like,
well, I think it starts with my live life without regrets, to be honest. Like, it's just, I do a talk on that. And what I say to people is, think ahead to when you're 90 years old. And I always envision this: you're on a porch somewhere, a veranda, the front deck of your house. You're in a rocking chair with your best friend, and you talk about your woulda, coulda, shouldas. I wish I had. And people regret what they didn't do. And I always say, what you regret not having. If you fast forward to 90, what would you regret not having done? And I say, that's your dream for today. If you really, really want it. I knew I really wanted to go spend a year in Europe, and I made it happen. It took twice as long to get there, but I made it happen. And that changed my life. Like, it just, you know, my life has been, you know, a little nomadish, you know, 4 years in Germany, 3.5 in England, a bit of a illegal immigrant in between. I was between countries for a while.
Yeah.
So I might work. So, you know, it's been quite and after my tech, you know, I became a farmer, of course, right? Which is, you know, the accidental $1 million salesperson became the accidental farmer. And now I'm, you know, teaching people that, you know, you can do whatever you want, because nothing's really rocket science except for rocket science. It's all learnable, you know?
So who are your, what sort of clients do you work with now typically?
I work, what I found, one of the favorite things I love to sell was what I call the world's most expensive training. I was Learning Tree International, and it was like equivalent of about $10,000 a day. So $40,000 for a 4-day course, and I sold one a week around the world. I had Europe as first, and then I did Canada. And
what was the course?
Oh, very technical. Like it was courses by engineers for engineers.
Okay.
So again, my technical background didn't mean I could talk intelligently about digital signal processing, but I knew we had a course on it, and go, here, 412. I still remember the course number, 412, here it is. And you don't need, you need like some of the sales skills is like, here's the course. I think you need that. If you want more information, I'll put you in touch with the instructor. If it was something like project management or management skills, that I could talk about competently, or even intro to data networking. I had enough of a tech background to be able to sell that course. And again, that's where the STEM background comes to fore. But one thing when you asked me before is, every business needs to know how to sell and market. When I started a garden business with zero desire to ever work on a farm, be on a farm, live on a farm, or start a garden center, all I had was, I knew how to scale a business and run it and start from scratch. Like literally, I lived on a farm and I knew nobody in my area because I was a city slicker. I was a transplant. So I started from scratch and I knew nothing about farming. So I was like, I just started, and it became a thriving destination within 3 years. And it's just, when you have this vision and you're having fun, my business card says, have fun and make money. The more fun you have, the more money you will make. And if you're not having fun, who cares about the money? So I've been, again, I always say life lessons are never inexpensive. They tend to be really expensive. And, I've been, with golden handshakes because of my financial commitments. And I never want to be in that circumstance, where you're locked in with a mortgage or debts and stuff. So living debt-free, living with fewer possessions, it's a good way to live.
Yes. And what I'm hearing too, Patti, is that you get what is your business and where you can help and where someone else needs to help. It's like, I can help you this from what you're asking me, this course or this path or this person. And it's this level of certainty, I think, that is another, another one of your superpowers, is because particularly in current times of COVID and all the unrest in the world at the moment, people are, there's a lot more fear, there's a lot more anxiety in the world. So, if we can be that beacon of certainty and reassurance, and a lot of that comes from how you are making decisions and how you are making sense of the craziness that's going on, and to know, what you can do and what is within your control and what is not. And I think today we've just touched the surface on what you bring to the world, Patti. And we're running out of time now, but it's been an absolute delight to have this conversation with you. And I know that again, it is how we think about things. And then what I'm also seeing is that, we've got to be putting in things into action. It's like you're constantly experimenting, like the good scientist, right? And that's what,
the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, but the thing is, the great thing about science is that we never fail. It's simply, we're working on the feedback that comes to make then different decisions. And I think if we can adopt that kind of mentality, that this is as much about, well, it's very much what I'm hearing from you, is you've got to love the journey, because the destination ain't going to give it to you if you haven't, had some fun along the way. And I love that connection that you're making and bringing the elephant in the room, which often for technical people can be as well, money, and selling themselves, like sales, as you said earlier, is like this dirty word. And I think that's a whole other, session we can perhaps do, is to unpack that, because we've really got to put that aside. We're not going to see more women in leadership roles in organizations, in government, in universities. We're not going to see this gender disparity diminish if we all don't get better at putting ourselves forward and and communicating our value and our worth. And I think you've really demonstrated that really just in your beautiful, unique way, right? And that is also, you know, what's so refreshing is that you bring all of yourself to the table. And it sounds like what, you know, you've got a bit of the Midas touch there as well, Patti, that, you know, there's nothing that, you know, that can't be done, you know, when you put your mind to it, and you enjoy what you're doing.
That's
and that's
right.
the key of that Ikigai diagram, isn't it? The center point where, you know, we're loving what we do, the world needs it, and we're getting paid for what we do. So
that's right. You nailed it. It's just when you know, that's the whole thing about entrepreneurship. It doesn't feel like work. I mean, this is still my weekend supposedly, and it's kind of like, you know, but it's just what you do. I mean, it's just the way we fit it into our schedule. And it's just when I've got the rest of the week and I take time off and go shopping in the middle of the day, if I have to, it's really quite good. Yeah. And the world of sales is changing. It's, you know, the mindset is changing. Again, there's a generational difference. My students, the 20-year-olds, they have no fear of sales. So they've been sold to their whole lives. So it's mainly, you know, the 40, as you say, the 40 plus. But yeah, they're getting it. They're coming around. So
yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patti, and we look forward to hearing more of your adventures in another session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leah, for getting some of the wisdom out of me too. That was great.
Thank you.